Hi guys, it's Nicole and I'm back today with another scrapbook process video. I am currently enrolled in a sketch class over at the website for SCT magazine. This is run and taught by Allison Davis. As soon as I saw the announcement, I sort of ran, threw it in my cart, did remember to use my discount code from a previous class that I took from them, but I love her classes, so I knew that this was going to be a good one. And it was going to kind of give me some fresh inspiration on a monthly basis and kind of keep me going. Now, I'm a little confused myself as to how this video is so long. So we're going to figure that out as we go through and do this voiceover together. I did leave this portion in. I get asked a lot like how things seem to go so quickly or how I make decisions so quickly. The secret is I don't. I just cut those out of my videos. Picking paper is, I think, for me, the hardest or longest part, but it's also the part that I enjoy the most. Paper is like my favorite part of the process. I tend to just start pulling things that I like. I tend to, in this instance, I grabbed some of the stickers and dies and stuff that I had stashed all of these products together. And I also used the A sides of the paper to sort of decide what my color palette is going to be. And then I just sort of start auditioning papers and trying different things out. As I go, I tend to try to figure out, if I've picked something that's a linen pattern or a polka dot pattern, I try not to repeat those with the other ones. Ultimately, I do try to like to have an A side and then mix in a bunch of B sides. In this instance, it's all B sides, and I'm 100% okay with that. I actually sent a photo of this completed layout to a friend, and she told me that this was her favorite layout ever. And I was confused because to me, it's kind of a simple, I don't know, it's just simple and like there's not a whole lot going on. So I don't know. You guys can tell me when we get to the end. I went through and printed the PDF from the class materials, and just like all of her other classes that she's done through like Facebook and stuff, you're gonna get a ton of extra content. And I knew that I wanted to do one of the variations on the sketch. I think I've already put it away. Maybe? Yeah, I already put it away. I went back and forth between the variation that I picked and one that had like a giant star icon in the background, and I was considering cutting out like a giant paw print and stitching around it. Ultimately, I think I'm still in that quote-unquote lazy scrapper, which stitching and doing a bunch of die cutting is by no means lazy. It was more like I didn't want to get my silhouette out. I didn't want to go find a mat. I didn't want to mess with a cut file. So I settled on this one that had like a row where you could house like your repeating icon. And so I'm going to swap it out for a little paw print die cut that I ordered a while back, and it's sort of been kind of on my mind that I wanted to use it. I decided that I wanted to go ahead and stitch along a lot of the edges of my papers. I did leave this in. This is just the method that I use. I like to grab one strand, fold it in half, stick it through my needle, and when I go to do that first stitch, I'm going to catch the looped end of the thread and use that as my method to securing it. And then I just do a basic back stitch as far as I can possibly go with my length of thread. I tend to be able to get at least halfway across a straight 12-inch section. So it's usually about 2 threads worth to do like one line. And this was one of those things that I dragged around my house for a couple days. I would go sit down and watch TV with my kids and get a couple lines of stitching done. It's not intricate stitching, so I'm not really sure why it takes me so freaking long, but it takes me a while. This took me a couple days off and on. So here I've come back. The yellow one I actually stitched onto my background instead of the yellow pattern paper. And if you look really closely on the left side, you can see that I kind of boogered up my sort of pieced together background paper. And I'm going to come up with a solution to fix that later, but I was so mad at myself. It got stuck on something and I didn't realize it. And when I went to move the layout, I ripped the little layer, and it wasn't a clean enough rip to kind of glue it down and move on. I was just kind of annoyed because it was in a section of the layout that I wasn't intending to put an embellishment over there. So I'm going to leave that till much further in the process. It's a problem for future me at this point. My photos, I want to say these are about 2.5 by 3.5. I printed 2 of them, came back to print the third one another day, and I couldn't even figure out what size they were. So I just kind of, as I was trimming them off of the 4x6 photo printer or photo paper, I just made sure that they were all going to be the same size so that I could mat them together on one piece of white cardstock. I really like sketches that give me the opportunity to do this because I would rather move around one piece that has all my photos on it instead of 3 separate photos. And it's just because I'm lazy and I'm kind of a mess during the process. Anybody that's been here for a while should know this. If I were to zoom my camera out any further, some of you guys would be horrified at the state of my desk. Anything I've made this month is still like out loud and proud in my face. Ideally, I would have cleaned my room yesterday so I could edit a video and put up a workspace Wednesday. I may go ahead and try to get it cleaned today and maybe get the video posted by tonight, but we'll see. It might end up being tomorrow. But I really want to get back into the habit of the last couple days of the month, just sort of getting my room reset, getting everything cleaned up, put away, dusted, vacuumed, even going through my files and deleting stuff once the video's done, once I've posted to online galleries and everything's sort of digitally in its home. I need to go through and just start clearing up files. I tend to wait until I start getting warnings about space before I start deleting things. So I need to get back on like a monthly routine for that. I've also had a couple comments recently regarding embellishing and how I make it look so easy. You guys, it's the power of editing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think any of us really know what we're doing. I tend to do like what you just saw. I just dump a bunch of stuff on my desk. I immediately push aside things that I don't like, that's not in the running, and start digging through things that I'm like attracted to in the moment. I know that I didn't use any red paper, so to me that giant fire hydrant was going to have a good kind of like layering opportunity. None of the little doggies look like my dog, but that's okay. I just kind of picked one that sort of maybe was a little bit more closer to his personality. And at that point I stopped because I'm like, I'm too overwhelmed. I can't make a decision. I don't know where anything's going to go, but I do know where I want my title to go. So we're going to shift gears and we're going to work on that. As far as making my own titles, that's another thing that I tend to cut out, where I will pull out like 6 or 7 different fonts and sit here and go back and forth and try to figure out, what do I like together? What do I not like together? By the time I edit it for you guys, I've already made the decision. I try to cut out as much boring stuff as I possibly can. And those are sort of the moments that I tend to get questions on or comments about, like how quick it is, or how they wish they could make decisions as quickly as I do. I don't, you guys. It's the fact that this is sped up and then cut, like chunks are cut out of it. If I left the raw files, you guys would just hear me sitting and like mumbling to myself in real time, questioning whether this looks good or this doesn't look good. I will text a friend. Like it's not quick. I think we get spoiled by the sped up, edited, chopped up like versions that we post on YouTube. So please just know that this seemingly quick and simple layout took me probably 10 days between other things going on. I think I did I actually ended up completing an entire layout in the middle of this one, I just kind of scooted everything aside and was like, this one has an earlier deadline. Let's knock this out. We'll come back to this dog page when I have time. I didn't finish it until today. So the beginning of the month was when I got all of the like class information, and here I am the very last day of the month actually finishing my layout and posting it to like the gallery where we can share all of our stuff. So just know it takes me a long time. I'm not skilled in making decisions. I'm struggling just like you guys. It doesn't come easy to me. When I'm having a hard time making decisions is when I have to either walk away or I have to just remind myself that I like what I like because I like it, and it's okay if I use it over and over and over again. Even picking like the pattern and the color for the top of my letters, that takes way too long. So I cut all that out. I finally settled on red and brown. Those are two colors that are not in my background strips. So I feel like they're going to be more noticeable. They're going to contrast with everything. Instead of going and pulling out a fresh sheet of brown pattern paper, I looked through the like Project Lifestyle cards that I had stashed with all of my dog things. And I basically find cards that I don't like or I think are ugly or that I'm never going to use, and I die cut around the image or the quote that's printed on there. I feel like it's technically being used and it works for me. I did go ahead, I pulled out, these are the cutting mats that I buy for my silhouette from Amazon. They come in a 3-pack. I buy them a couple times a year. The one that I've been using recently is just kind of, it's not holding very well. It's a little dirty. It's a little dusty. It's got some lint on it. So I pulled out an offcut from when I cut off another piece of this mat. Went ahead and just cut it in half. So I've got roughly like a 6x6 area here. And because it's new, it sticks so good. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out my letters. And normally I just kind of throw them on there willy-nilly while I glue them. I was a little bit smarter this time, and I actually lined them up as if I was going to line them up on my layout while I do the stacking of the layers. Even though I know where they're going to go on the layout, I still like to do either this or like the washi tape method so that I can make sure that like things are going to be centered. I can make sure that I gave myself enough room, make sure that the letters I picked weren't actually too big. Even though I've gone through this, I'm using a grid mat and all that, it's still not going to be centered on my layout. It's okay. We're going for like good enough, not perfect. Okay. There's not going to be perfection going on over here. There's not going to be anything professional going on here, including my voiceovers. I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to entertain myself. And by extension, I hope my videos entertain other people. I hope you kind of maybe learn some different tips and tricks. I know that making your own titles is not for everybody. I like it. I find it relaxing. I find it soothing. This tends to be when I do my YouTube watching. So I will pull up my subscription feed and kind of scroll back to find some videos that I haven't seen yet. And I sit here and I listen to other people craft and I learn from them, and I sit here and make my own little letters, and it makes me happy. And I think I looked on my channel, and I want to say every video I've posted so far in 2024, I've made my own titles. So I'm sorry to anybody that hates this part of my process. Just scoot forward. It's fine. Like just scoot. It's fine. Totally fine. From there, I started what I thought was going to be a quick process. This was not. Pretty sure I cut. Oh, please. I hope I cut most of this out. So basically, I have this little die set that I bought when I bought the little Gemini like mini. I bought a mini alphabet, which I keep forgetting to use. So somebody please remind me in my Facebook group if you see me posting like sneaks or something, be like, hey, did you use that alphabet set? Because I need to use it. But then I also ordered this little pet one because it was just so freaking cute. So at first I thought I was like, okay, I'll do like a rainbow of paw prints. I'm going to change that up, and instead I'm going to do, I think I just did like 5 or 6 colors. I have all these scraps from a previous layout. I'll post it in the eye above that I did a couple months ago with, it had a bunch of squares. So a lot of these little tiny scraps were the perfect size to go ahead and use up with this little paw print. But because I want them to have dimension, I'm going to go through and cut white layers with some scrap cardstock. So I'm going to have 2 layers of white cardstock and the layer of pattern paper. But I got to tell you, these little, it's, for some reason the hearts are easier. These little paw prints, they're rough. I think when I was cutting them, I assumed that all 4 of like the toes were going to be the same size, and they're not. And I kind of quickly figured that out when I started trying to put them like in their little stacked layers. It's actually the 2 middle ones are the same size and the 2 outside ones are the same size. So as I'm throwing them in this pile, I have not realized that yet. When I got further in the process, I realized it. And when I would take them out of the die, I made sure to take like a pokey tool and poke them out and put them on my desk where like the toes were in order, because it was getting rough. And it took me longer than I care to admit to stack all these pieces together. And I did get smart, and I was using like the negative cut to line up the toes, because for some reason when I would go to do it, I don't know, they looked weird. So I saved you guys the hassle of watching me line up all these layers. It's, again, I just pulled up YouTube. I got a lot of YouTube watching done during this process, and I just kind of mixed up the like color order. I stuck with this random color palette that I was pulling from the sticker sheet and some of the A sides that I didn't even use. And I just grabbed one of these like jewel picker tool things. This came in a Pink Fresh event kit. I'm pretty sure it's available. I will link it if I can. If not, I'll link something similar. Anything that's still available, I do try to link. I tend to use a lot of older papers and pre-made embellishments and mix in things like newer dyes and stuff like that. So I'm going to go through and glue all of these down. They are a little bit fiddly, but I think the end result overall just adds a lot of like dimension and interest. I think you could get the same idea using like foam strips or pop dots or something. I didn't want to sit there and try to cut them down to fit behind the toes. And so to me, just stacking white paper behind it is kind of just the method that I like. I like that it's going to be flat. It's going to be flat, but also raised, if that makes sense. So now that I've got most of the like fiddly, time-consuming stitching and die cutting and stacking out of the way, now comes the time to sort of start putting all of these decisions and choices together. I did consider using that offcut leftover house piece to cover up my kind of ripped edge. Ultimately, I didn't like it. It seemed kind of weird. But again, I will try things over and over and over again. It may not fit on this layout, but I will put it back in the leftovers for this kit and keep pulling it out, and eventually I'll find a way to use it. I brought over my title again. I'm keeping it on the mat because it's clear and I can kind of figure out how to center it. I probably should have gone ahead and put this on like a big piece of washi tape, because I would have been able to center it a little bit better. In the end, again, we're going with good enough. We're going with done. We're not going for perfection here. I do just make sure that anything that's touching the stitching has a little bit of extra liquid glue on it so that it doesn't pop off when I go to put it in an album. And some of these smaller, like skinnier fonts, a pair of tweezers has kind of been my best friend with these. It just helps to kind of hold them, keep my fingers out of the glue. get them placed down as straight as I possibly can. I'm actually using the edge of that mat. Because the mat has a grid line on it, I'm actually using the bottom of the grid line to make sure that it's level on my layout. And then I'm just using the edge of the plastic to line up my letters. Again, I use anything that's available. If my ruler is nearby, I'll use that. If it's a piece of scrap cardstock, I will use that. Straight is straight in my book, and it doesn't need to be a pretty process. We just need to get to the end, is kind of where I'm at. So this is the part where I start feeling like things are a little boring. They're a little empty. What can I do to add a little bit of interest? I like to put like a long phrase sticker with my title if I can. A lot of the other letter stickers and phrase stickers that were on there didn't really make sense. I mean, this is such a specific theme or trope or whatever. I don't think I would have found one. So I try to just go with whichever clashes the least. So just sort of obedience phrases to me was simple and easy enough. For my journaling, I typed it up on the PDF that I have available that pairs with the Hero Arts sentiment strip die. Again, in the eye above, I will post a link to the video where I kind of go over all of this. I will just remind you, if you decide to download the PDFs that I've made or the files that I've made, you have to save them, like save a copy to your own file. Because if you start typing your journaling in there, it will save it as into the file that everybody else pulls up. So all of your journaling will be visible to anybody else accessing that document. So please, please, please save your own file. From there, I'm going to add, these are my absolute favorite foam strips. I actually was on scrapbook.com the other day and I saw that I think they're releasing, or they might have already come out, like different thickness levels. And so I need to figure out what thickness I have right now. And I kind of want to see if there's one that's like maybe just a little bit thinner and order those to try them as well. But I just really like how these fit pretty much perfectly behind things like phrase stickers and journaling strips. I tend to pull them out for almost anything if I'm doing foam adhesive, like dimension type stuff. And I tend to just kind of stagger my journaling so that the ends aren't all lined up if that's the look that I'm going for. Sometimes I want them all the way lined up, sometimes I don't. And then from there, I'm kind of just digging through everything that's out on my desk. I have kept these October afternoon label stickers out from a previous project. And really, I wanted a yellow circle label. And I couldn't find a blank one, but I did find one from this like farm collection. And I was like, when am I ever going to use the phrase fresh picked? So we don't need that. We're going to cut her off, throw her away, and we're going to use the blank part of it. Found a cute little heart sticker from the 12 by 12 sticker set. And then I grabbed another October afternoon label and just stamped the like month and date. Tried to get it to work in the upper. Ultimately, I really like my date down below. So you got to go with what you like. So as always, I thank you guys for stopping by. If you've made it this far, I definitely appreciate it. I will catch you down in the comments and over in my Facebook group. Everything is linked in the description box, and I will catch you guys later.